This is Radio Cairo. We're coming from Studio 3. My name is Dr. Amr Mabrouk.
Feels like
Muhammad is at the control. And today in the world of info, we are really having the great pleasure and honor to have with us here His Excellency Ambassador Éric Chevallier, the Ambassador of France in Cairo, a very seasoned diplomat who has a very rich background. He not only graduated from Institut d'Études Politiques, but he also graduated with a medical degree, and he worked in the Ministry of Health for some time with the Médecins du Monde, and he worked as a very important assistant to Minister Kushner. He was then the Minister of Health, and then when he became a Minister of Foreign Service, he changed a bit shift of career to become a diplomat, and he was a distinguished Ambassador of France in Damascus, in Doha, in Baghdad, and now in Cairo. Monsieur, vous êtes bienvenu à la radio de Caire, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur. Je suis très honoré.
Merci beaucoup, thank you, shukran. أنا سعيد جدا أن أكون معكم.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. Now, my French is almost finished, so I'll talk in English now, and I think your Arabic as well. I mean, let's talk English, which is a neutral language. It's a neutral language, because what Egypt has with France is a very distinguished relation. Some people would just go back to say during the Crusades. It's not like that. No, it was before that, and it's even BC. Because when the Romans came, and when Hadrian, the emperor of the Roman emperor, came and very much impressed with the Egyptian religion and with the pharaonic religion, and the cult of Isis, has built temples all over the world, and there was a temple of Isis which has disappeared, unfortunately. It was found during the World War II, during the occupation of Paris, but the archaeologists have hidden it and disappeared. So we are talking about a very strong relation that goes back, and it's, I think, what we can call a mutual admiration between us, Egypt, and France. We're not going to do a lot of history today, but we have to give this base for our listener, talking about the speciality and how special is the Egyptian-French relation, sir.
No, you're absolutely right. This relationship is a very long-lasting, very deeply rooted relation. And it goes back, centuries and centuries ago. And this is the base for our relationship between the people. And I think this is the most important thing, is that our two people know each other, have respect for each other for so many years, decades, and centuries, that we can easily build upon this to move forward. And this is really something that we all value. In France, there is a kind of passion for Egypt. We have even a word for that.
Yes.
Egyptomania.
Egyptomania, yes.
and it's clear that I feel every day I'm here in Egypt, that there is a kind also of passion in Egypt for France.
Of course.
So I really feel that it's a mutual passion. And of course, we can also go back to Champollion, very important. We can go to Mariette, to Maspero, and so many important relationships with regard to archaeology, Egyptology, heritage.
And Muhammad Ali, when he wanted to form an empire, he needed doctors, engineers, not just officers, but all aspects of civilization. And he went north, and he didn't go to any place but France.
You're absolutely right.
He made an agreement with Louis Philippe, the king of France at that time, and huge expeditions and scholars went and crossed the Mediterranean to have an enlightenment for education.
Absolutely. You're perfectly right. Muhammad Ali was really eager to increase this relationship, because he believed that we have so many in common. And yes, doctors, engineers, scientists, but
even astronomers.
Astronomists, yes. Absolutely. Of course, there is also the history of all the scientists who accompanied Napoleon Bonaparte when he was here.
Because when Napoleon Bonaparte came to Egypt, even some of the information he got from the tourists, the French tourists who came in 16th, 17th, and 18th century, they talked about Egypt, and they talked very fondly about Egypt. So he didn't come just to conquer, but he also brought with him a scientific expedition.
It was a huge scientific
almost 220 or 230 scientists.
It's almost 200, in fact. Yes. It's a bit more than 150. And it was really scientists from all disciplines. And they came to not only help understand Egypt, its culture, its people, its nature, its landscapes, but also to contribute to the development of knowledge about and in Egypt. And for example, the first printing machines came with this expedition. So people...
And the book, the Description d'Egypte,
exactly.
And then 22 or 24 volumes.
It's absolutely beautiful. We have copies, including here at the French Institute for Oriental Archaeology, IFAO. It's a beautiful description, which was published beginning of the 19th century, which really describes everything. You know? And it's
even botanical plants and
everything.
Animals,
plants,
and everything.
Absolutely. So, and it made a huge impression on the French public. Huge impression on the French public, and it's still something that people refer to. But you know also that and you're a medical doctor too. You know that there are the first relationship of Egyptian doctors with foreigners were mainly French.
Yes, we can never forget Claude Bey, the founder of the Egyptian Medical School. That was in Abu Zaab first, and then went to Qasr al-Aini. And this was in 1827.
Exactly.
And since we talked about Champollion was able to decipher, because he was much interested as well in the Demotic language and the Coptic language.
Absolutely.
And that's why he won the race against Young, the ophthalmologist, the British ophthalmologist, who was trying at the same time to decipher the Rosetta Stone. But Champollion won because he knew the language, and he came to Egypt, and he has invested a lot of time in reading and studying about Egypt.
Exactly, that's exactly the point. And you know, after that, Mariette, Maspero, especially Mariette, was able to establish the first antiquities department here in Egypt, which is now, of course, run by Egyptian.
Yes.
But at that time, we helped a lot in developing this antiquities.
And Mariette, if I may add some of the trophies that Mariette did, that when Empress Eugenie came to Egypt and she looked to Ismail and said to him, I love the museum, which was here in Bulak, and donate this to me. So Ismail said, I cannot donate it because Mariette is the one you have to take a permission. And Mariette refused. And he refused an order from the Empress for the sake of Egypt. And this gives us a lot of tribute to Mariette himself.
Absolutely. And it shows the love Mariette had for Egypt, you know. Absolutely. And as you mentioned, of course, Princess Eugenie, then we have to refer also to the Suez Canal, obviously, which is one key element of our shared, history. I mean, the creation of the Suez Canal.
Ferdinand de Lesseps, of course.
Yes. Of course, Ferdinand de Lesseps, and this is also something very special because Egypt has always been a very key country for its strategic position, but with the Suez Canal, it increased to a level which brings Egypt as a very, very key country for the world commerce, trade, the world movement, because it is a contribution to bridging between West and East.
Actually, two civilizations.
Exactly.
Yes, it's not like an invasion or something, because there were too many scholars who crossed this Mediterranean from south to north. And if we have given the tribute to Muhammad Ali, but we also have to give the tribute to the ones who did that in the early 20th century. Taha Hussein as an enlightenment.
Of course.
Tawfiq al-Hakim.
Of course.
And all of these people who went to study, and even Mahmoud Said, the famous painter, he was so much into Impressionism that he came back with a law degree and with a degree in art and enlightenment in art.
But what you're saying is extremely important, that people think sometimes that the cultural relationship between Egypt and France is mainly archaeology and Egyptology. No. This is, of course, a key component on it. But modern culture is also something that unites us. You mentioned very key names. We could add in cinema, of course,
Yusuf Shaheen,
Yusuf Shaheen.
And we can obviously add two grand Sheikh of Al-Azhar, of course. Sheikh Abdul Halim Mahmoud, who had his PhD from the Sorbonne in the 40s, Abdullah Draz, the famous Sheikh who had it in the 40s and the 50s, and the current Grand Sheikh, Tayyib, who speaks very fluent French.
And has been graduated from La Sorbonne.
From La Sorbonne.
Absolutely.
So we are talking about a continuous exchange of food for thought between Egypt and France.
Absolutely. And this is something we want really to build upon to do more.
Yes.
Because we can still do more. There are still areas where we can continue to develop this relationship. Absolutely.
Because now we have crossed in the history in 10 minutes. Now we're talking about a great visit that happened 10 days ago. And the Egyptians were stunned. I think the President Macron now has a lot of admirers in Egypt. And they really have enjoyed to see him, see his beautiful smile, see him walking along the Khan al-Khalili, going around Egypt, meeting Le Grand Sheikh, and at the same time having very one-to-one friendly talk with our President Sisi, and even the posts that he has used in the various in X and Twitter and all this has shown how he carries in his heart a lot of we don't want to use the word Egyptomania, but definitely there is a lot of Egyptian philic appearance, or he loved Egypt, and Egyptophilia, if we use the expression. So let's talk about this, because the visit was in a very crucial time. I know the role that you have done, but let us if you can kindly give us an enlightenment about this visit, because you were very busy for the past 2 or 3 months making the full details of it. Tell us about that, sir, because this is the main talk of today.
No, this was really an extremely important visit, and as you said, very timely visit. At the period where in the world and in the region where we need to develop the bridges and a mutual, not only understanding, but the common action, the common vision between both sides of the Mediterranean Sea, and especially between France and Egypt as leading countries in Europe and in the Arab world. So that was a very important visit. The president came with a big delegation, including 7 ministers, which is big, and also a delegation which included senior business people, but also presidents of key institutions at the National Research, the CNRS, the National Research Agency, but even the president of the Football Federation who came. So it was a very broad delegation. And the idea was really to have 2 objectives. The one being strengthening the bilateral relation, and the second one, and there was no other, 2 of them were as important as the other one, the regional issues and international issues. So 2 objectives, 2.5 days. So it quite a long visit for a president. And it was, of course, upon invitation of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. They know each other. And I can say that they have a very good relationship, the 2 of them. And the idea was also to build upon this personal relation to go a step further. There were different sequences. First, upon his arrival, the president and the delegation, we've been to the JAM for a private visit. Of course, because there will be the big opening in July.
July 3rd, yes.
Yeah, exactly. But the idea was not to make an official visit, but to have a sense of this amazing contribution that Egypt is bringing to the world. And he was impressed. I can tell you he was extremely impressed by this private visit. And then the idea was to go to have a dinner in Khan Khalili. And at the beginning, the idea was to have a very small private dinner in Khan Khalili. That was our president's idea at the beginning, that he would come with the ambassador, myself, and only a few advisors, not even the ministers. And we were preparing for that. And then I had a message from the presidency here that President Sisi would like to join and to have dinner with President Macron, which was, of course, a gesture which was highly appreciated.
Of course.
And it was a message of friendship also.
Of course, because the president originally, this is his quarters in Cairo.
This is exactly what he told to President Macron.
Yes.
It's his area. And so
this is where Naguib Mahfouz used to walk every
exactly.
day.
and by the way, the dinner took place in Naguib Mahfouz cafe. So, but there were, as you saw on TVs, and it was all over the world, as you said, walking in Khan Khalili, having dinner in Naguib Mahfouz, again walking in Khan Khalili, and then going for a tea to one of the Kalsoum cafe. So it was really the heart of the heart of Cairo, and it showed again the close relationship between the two leaders and of course between the two countries, and we saw the impact it had on many people, and I can tell you that going back to the hotel, to his hotel with the president. In the car, he was extremely happy of this moment, which was a very special moment.
It's once in a lifetime to have such a trip. I mean, definitely after he becomes a private citizen, he can do that. But I mean, to do it in the helm of power and to have 2 hours in the middle of Cairo, not just as a Macron, but as the President Macron, this gives really a lot of emphasis of how special is and how the safety of Egypt is, because this is a very important message that I believe was sent to everyone.
And it was, of course, a message of the appreciation of the French president. It was President Macron, but it was the French president.
Yes.
So it was a message also of the importance for us of the relationship also to the people of Egypt.
Because we salute not just the rank, we salute the man. So it was both.
Exactly.
Saluting the man and saluting the rank.
Exactly.
And this makes it a very special moment.
Absolutely. And it was a special moment. And then as I can give you some insight, as
Please.
President Macron doesn't sleep a lot, then back at his hotel, we had a debriefing and a pre-briefing for the next day until almost 1:30 a.m. with the president and his very close team. So that was a quite intense day. And then the next day, we had several elements which were extremely important. First of all, the president was received at the palace, at the presidential palace, with a 23. How do you say that?
21 salute.
Exactly,
salute.
Exactly. And then there was the tête-à-tête, the bilateral meeting, again building upon the tête-à-tête they had in Khan Khalili, and then. That was a very important moment. Also, the idea was also to invite His Majesty the King of Jordan to join, in order to have a trilateral summit.
Exactly, and to emphasize the opinion of France in what's happening in the Middle East right now, which is very important, between the two most moderate and safe states in the Middle East.
That was exactly the purpose of this dimension, which was really to show that we share the same vision of peace, of stability in the region, and of course that we, these 3 countries and the 3 leaders, call for resuming the ceasefire in Gaza, of course, having humanitarian assistance, going back to Gaza, because for the moment this is not happening, and this is terrible for the people. Of course, also moving towards a political solution.
And the
long-lasting two-state solution.
I mean, President Macron was very much precise
Absolutely.
in declaring that this is still the position of official France and the position of President Macron. This is really a great support and enlightenment. It always says that there should be light in the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely, and this is something that we are very strongly advocating for, and the president was advocating for, and it's something, of course, which is totally shared with Egypt, with Jordan, and with other countries, by the way. And we strongly believe that this is the only way for long-lasting peace and stability in the region, including for the Israeli people.
Yes. And what's important is that President Sisi has shown President Macron that how in Khan al-Khalili, when President Sisi was quite young, and this went on, that there were all the religions were living in Egypt. There were Egyptians, they were all Egyptians. There were Jews, Christians, and Muslims living together. There were Armenians, there were Greeks. It was a cosmopolitan city, and it's still up till now a cosmopolitan country, where you can never find a trace, and you can never tell what are the roots, because it's always mixed root. There is always intermarriage between different religions and different races.
And we all know that the terrible situation we see today is only leading to worse and worse if we do not react. So this is why there was a strong advocacy of the three leaders and strong commitment towards trying to again reach a ceasefire in Gaza. And we know, and we really are very appreciative of the efforts of Egypt in this regard, together with some other countries. Of course, humanitarian assistance, which is more than needed, but again, political solution. And this is what, again, has to be achieved. It's difficult, but we still believe that it is the only way. And as you probably saw in the press, there was a decision to give a call to President Trump.
Yes.
And
tell us about that, because I mean the narration was limited, but I hope that you can tell us whatever possible to tell us. I mean, I mean whatever you
can
allowed.
Imagine that I cannot share.
Of course, no. I mean just give our listeners sort of an idea. We don't want to go into
no,
secrets.
I cannot go into details.
Of course,
but what you can imagine is in fact what happened is the three leaders who were together. Here in Cairo, told President Trump about their aspirations, their wish, what they believe in, with regard to the issues that I just mentioned, and how important it is that we reach these objectives if again, and we understand that it is what President Trump says he would like to see also, is peace and stability in the region. Yes. So, in fact, it was the idea to give the common vision, and that's very important, between two Arab countries, one key European country, together, the leaders of the three countries, giving the perspective and the vision that they share for the region and the way we believe jointly we need to move forward. So
it's like a four members summit.
It was a trilateral summit plus the President of the United States of America.
I think this was really very important, and I mean this is definitely unusual diplomacy, but definitely we are living in unusual times.
Yeah, exactly. This is unusual diplomacy, but again, and of course, nobody would say that it solved everything with one call. Nobody imagined that it could solve everything in one call. But this is diplomacy.
Of course.
The only way to reach peace and stability in the region is diplomacy.
And step by step, why not?
And step by step, and even if everybody knows that it's difficult. Okay, it will be naive to imagine that it's easy. But if you consider the situation, there are two attitudes. Either you say, okay, it's too complicated, we gave up.
No.
But then the future will be worse. Or we decide that even if there is a little chance, there is a little journey, we need to go that way. And this is the efforts that we're trying to make. And of course, doing it jointly between important Arab countries and an important European country is also a message in itself. So that was the purpose. But then we did a lot of things also in the palace. We had the signature of several bilateral agreements also. Because again, the visit was not only regional, it was also bilateral. And at the palace, we signed 8 agreements regarding different fields, from economy to industry to higher education to health.
International cooperation as well.
International cooperation, absolutely. And including, for example, the fact that for the first time in history, the Institute Gustave Roussy, which is one of the best
for treatment of cancer, of course.
For treatment of cancer and research on cancer in Europe, is establishing, it was signed during the visit, a branch here in Egypt, which is the first time ever Gustave Roussy is establishing a branch outside France. And very importantly, the two presidents signed an agreement to elevate the level of the relationship to strategic. Exactly. And this is very important because elevating it to strategic relationship is strengthening the relationship in all fields because it covers all fields. So this was very important to sign these agreements, either by the two presidents or in front of the two presidents.
Well, this is very important because I remember that I don't remember, I was just a little kid, but in 1964, there was a fraternal relation that was signed, or strategic cooperation between two of the magnificent characters in history. That's Konrad Adenauer and President de Gaulle. And it was the fraternal relation between France and Germany that has paved the way to forming the European Union. Do you see that this Élysée Agreement of 1964 can be reproduced, or we can follow this same suit on the same footsteps like this in the Cairo Agreement of 2025?
I think, of course, it's a bit different. You know,
I know, of course.
What was signed at that time,
it was complete
between France
relation.
and Germany,
yes.
and not only that, but it was after terrible wars,
3 wars
exactly.
in a row.
We had between the two countries,
1870, 1914, 1940. All this has been very harsh time.
Exactly.
If not for the presence of de Gaulle, who was as a prisoner of war for 3 years in the First War, and Konrad Adenauer, who has a clear slate reputation, this could never happen. It's very personal.
It was very personal, and it was due to their personal leadership, clearly.
Yes.
So it was very special. You know, it was two neighboring countries who've been at war for, as you said, 3 times,
yes.
and then decided to move into a totally different way. The strategic agreement that was signed here in Cairo between Egypt and France is, of course, different, and there is a different background, there is a different dynamics, but the idea is really to try to do more on
yes, in the
every
same
field.
way. I mean,
Exactly.
Because what I like about the Élysée is that it's cooperation in all fields.
Exactly. So
even at the level of the directors of ministries.
Absolutely.
So when we have something like this as a strategy, we can build on that. I know it's completely different because these are two neighboring countries. These are two members of the Charlemagne Empire. So it's completely different. I mean, the languages even are more or less having the same background. But when we're talking about Egyptian French, we can really give a mark following the Élysée in a different perspective.
Yeah, but that's interesting, the comparison that you're making. In any case, what is really true is that it covers everything. And by the way, the rest of the visit, especially the same day, showed examples of this. For example, the two presidents went to a business forum, bilateral business forum, where we had 900 business leaders from both countries gathering together and working on different subjects like artificial intelligence and innovation, like health, like green energy, but many other sectors. And then there was something that, in fact, we proposed a few weeks ago, which was to go for President Macron, and President Sisi said that he would be happy to join, and that was a joint visit of the two presidents to the metro.
I like that very much.
And which is it was on line 3, and because we wanted also to show that the relationship between the two countries brings very concrete benefits to the Egyptian people.
Of course.
And I'm sure that millions of Egyptians who are using the metro every day in Cairo don't know exactly how France contributed to the development of all lines of the Cairo
line 1,
metro.
2, and 3. 3 is just beside my office.
and is run by, that line 3 is run by the same company, RATP, which is running the metro in Paris.
Yes, I'm familiar with that. I used to have a card when I was
Exactly.
there. Carte orange.
So you cannot use the same card here in Cairo. And for the fun, the two presidents were given a card for the metro.
That's very good.
And they used it. And of course, that was the opportunity also for example, to have a very important discussion with...
because line 3 actually is a very higher technology.
Absolutely.
And even air conditioned. And it's beautiful. And it takes you downtown from Heliopolis downtown to downtown Cairo, and then you can get other connections.
And exactly.
Which makes it very special. It's the green line, yes.
Exactly. And then, so that was more the message on the relationship in business, in industry. And then our president moved to Cairo University. Because, and this is something I really wanted to see also, is that to have also a demonstration of our commitment to the development of higher education and research energy.
Yes.
You have an amazing base
infrastructure
of and you have a human capital, which is amazing.
Yes.
You have young and a bit less young women and men in Egypt who have really a level which is quite impressive, and we want to contribute to develop this. And so this is why around the visit we organized 2 days of a conference which was the first of its kind, bringing together presidents, deans, professors from French universities and from Egyptian university gathering together, and we were able during the visit to sign 40 agreements between French universities and Egyptian universities in all fields, in order to develop the mobility of between the two countries of researchers, of students, but also develop research programs, develop joint curriculum, develop joint diplomas. So it's something which I strongly believe is absolutely key, because you are a very young nation. The youth in Egypt are not only numerous, but they have a huge potential. So we are really eager to contribute to give opportunities to these youth to have new possibilities to study, and especially in relationship with France.
Well, actually, because we are building on something. I mean, in the 19th century, all the scholarships went to France. Of course, there was an interruption. In 1881, we have to mention that the invasion and Cromer has shut down all the universities, all the high schools. But there was, with the opening up of Cairo University or King Fouad University in 1908, there was another boost of sending more scholars to France.
Absolutely.
And building on that, I mean, for example, now the Faculty of Law has its own section of of French. And there are a lot of schools like that. And we have to mention, since we've mentioned the Gustave Roussy, we have to mention your role in building the specialized hospital in my university, in Shams University, which I learned in it. And I'm still working up till I'm not, after the show. I have a patient to see in a specialized hospital in Shams University, and as well the specialized hospital of Cairo University.
Absolutely.
So the cooperation in higher education is really a very turning point. Absolutely. How far are you going to support scholars to go there, or, as you have just mentioned, more professors to cross borders, whether mutual crossing between our professors going abroad or your professors coming in and giving crash courses or education or reforming any sort of education? Have you signed these treaties in that as well?
Yes. First of all, in the morning, in front of the two presidents, the two ministers in charge of higher education and research explained to the two presidents how we can move forward. And the two presidents gave very strong instructions to move forward. This was in this spirit that we were able, during the visit, to sign these 40 agreements, which is huge. It never happened. Never happened before. I would like to say that Dr. Ayman Al-Ashour is amazingly committed to this development. And by the way,
he's a very sharp professor of engineering in our Shams University as well. He was the dean of the faculty of engineering.
Absolutely.
I'm biased, you know that.
and by the way, you said that you will go to see one of your patients just after this moment together. And in fact, I will go to a reception that Dr. Ashour is organizing to celebrate the concrete results of the conference, the 2 days conference that we organize, and he mainly organized during the visit. So very, very, very strong commitment and already very strong results. So these 40 agreements, and we hope to sign in the coming months 30 additional, will really make a big difference. It never happened like that in such big numbers.
Yes.
And it will include, again, joint programs, joint diplomas, joint research, movement of students, PhDs, professors, both ways. There is also something very important that we did during the visit, that the president did, was to highlight the what we call the Université Française d'Égypte, the French university in Egypt, which was created 20 years ago. Munir Abdelnour is the chairman of the board, and this university needed a kind of second life.
Yes, it needs a kiss of life. Because let us talk very on friendly basis. Definitely, the English education is taking an upper hand. Even the German university, they are teaching their courses in English. The French university, I thought it will be a big resurrection of what Taha Hussein did and what Tawfiq Hakim did, and before him Claude Bey and all these people.
Exactly.
But it has a low profile. So tell us about that.
Because this will change.
Yes, this is good. This is good news.
A new era is opening. Not only we will have all the programs that I described, the new program that I described between many universities from both countries, but we are giving a new life to the French university. There will be a brand new campus in Shorouk.
Yes,
which
it's originally in Shorouk.
It's originally in Shorouk, but the new campus is amazing.
Very nice.
It's getting out from Earth currently as we speak, and we hope that very soon it will be operational. We are giving far more resources to the university to develop itself.
This is governmental, right? French government.
It's French government, but the Egyptian government is also contributing.
Because, this will make a very big step ahead, because all the private universities are belonging to entities, not to their governments. So the German or the American university or whatever. So this will, being supported by the French government, will give it a boost.
It's supported by the French government and the Egyptian government. And something which is extremely important, it gives dual diplomas. So if I study there, I will have an Egyptian diploma in order to work in Egypt and in the region, but I will have also a French one. It means that I will be able to work in France and in Europe, because if you
And it has what types of branches? It's not just literature, of course.
No. It's
business.
It's business and engineering, and we are opening to many other. This is part of the new birth that we are opening a lot of new sections. So it will be a totally different.
This is good.
So my message.
It's not just a facelift, right?
it's far from being only a facelift. I can tell you.
Complete refurbishing. Yes, this is very good.
It's a different story.
This is very good news. You're planning to have a pharmacy, medicine, and dentistry?
We will see.
Yes.
For the moment, not yet. The idea is more for medicine and pharmacy to develop these joint programs. With Ain Shams University, with Cairo University, with Alexandria, with others.
Yes.
But we'll see in the future. For the moment, medicine and pharmacy is not included in the plan, in the current plan, but we will see in the future. But and there is an additional thing that we want to do, and that was signed also in front of the two presidents, is the fact that we want to reach the point of 100 schools in Egypt.
That's what I was just going to talk about.
So it's not only higher education and research.
Because you have to have a source of ammunition for these universities.
Exactly.
Because I remember, as I told you before we went on air, I was a graduate of the English school in Cairo. We have
sorry for you. You're forgiven.
Yes, we have studied 6 years of French at school, but definitely I would have loved to have more French education, because I traveled to France for a scholarship in the 90s, and I would have loved to have more practice of more pratique of French, but definitely to learn more languages. We see the work of the missionary schools. This was the Jesuit, Le Sacré-Cœur, and other
Collège de la Salle,
Saint-Marc
in
Cairo, and Saint-Marc in Alexandria,
many.
All this, but still they were limited schools. They belonged to missionary work, but they were trying hard, in spite of the fact that the French was the language of the culture and the aristocracy of Egypt in the 19th century. In the 20th century, there was a bit of recession. So tell us about this 100 school project, please.
This is a very important project. First of all, of course, I was joking. You have very good British schools and other schools, and I want my good friend Gareth, the British ambassador, to call me after.
I will send him this program. By the
way. but send him the full program where I will say that, of course, you have very good British schools. So back to more serious talks. Now, this is very important. As you said, the missionary schools, which, by the way,
they were formed in 1854. This is a very big step ahead before the English schools.
Of course, very long history. Yes. We all know that they are schools of excellence. They are amazingly good schools. I'm really impressed every time I go there. By the way, contrary to what people think, you have even more Muslim children than Christians. Exactly. This is for all. This is for everybody.
And by the way, these were not Coptic Orthodox. These were Catholic schools. So it was even schools of...
But it's for everybody.
So it was allowed. The Muslims were allowed in, and the Copts were
not
allowed
only
in.
allowed, welcome, of course. And this is something which is absolutely clear and very important.
And always the Pearls, the sisters... they were always very kind and emphasized that the youngsters should go pray to the Muslim prayers during their times, and they celebrated the Coptic calendar as usual.
And the values are very clear. The values of these schools are mainly not only excellence in terms of in academic terms, but also respect of others, mutual understanding. These are at the heart of these schools.
This is what keeps on. Nowadays there are schools. For example, my niece decided to put her, in spite of having education in the American university, she has put her children in the French school.
Very good choice.
So, and she's improving her French every day. So when we talk about that, there are certain other schools, not missionary schools. There are new schools like Aziz and whatever, and the Lycée Liberté. And
absolutely, you're absolutely right. In fact, you have three kind of schools affiliated to France or related to France. The missionary schools that we mentioned, very important, deeply rooted.
Yes.
which educated many leaders of this country, being former prime ministers, ministers, leaders in cultural activities, in business, in academic world, and everything. You have lycées which are directly connected to the French authorities.
And these were secular ones.
Cairo,
there were two ones. The one in Heliopolis, Lycée Liberté Hospital.
You have first lycées, schools that are directly affiliated to the embassy and to the French authorities.
Yes.
You have the French lycée in Cairo. You have the French lycée in Alexandria, which is a bit less connected to the French authorities, but still, through the what we call the Mission Laïque Française. And you have, so that's the second category.
Yes.
And we have even two small schools in Hurghada and in Sharm el-Sheikh, which are, among this category. And then you have a third category, which are private schools, which are developed by private entrepreneurs, investors, Egyptians. But we work with them in order to allow them to give the best programs connected to the French programs.
Yes.
So these are three different categories, but all together they form a system. At this stage, we have within the country 60 schools. If you add the three categories, you have 60 schools.
Yes, and of course we don't forget the other schools like Notre Dame des Apôtres and of course Lycée Liberté, which was a secular hospital.
Absolutely.
One in Babylou and one in Heliopolis.
Absolutely right.
Yes.
And if you add this, currently 60. And the idea is, and what was signed during the visit, is going from 60 to 100 in the coming years. And we are working very hard, especially with the Ministry of Education here, to be sure that we can reach this point. So, as you can see, and I will end, because we were discussing the visit of the President. In the evening, we had a dinner with Francophone cultural personalities who were able to talk with the President. We have a very nice dinner at the Institut Français d'Archéologie Orientale, where he was able to really exchange with these people from Hossein Fahmy to Farah al-Dibani to Hind Sabri, but also to Marianne Roury, and
of course, Marianne Roury,
and many
the niece
others
of
Youssef Chey, but and several others. But the idea was, with all this, during the day, to in fact start to implement what was signed between the two presidents, the strategic agreement. So we had business, industry, higher education, where the president gave a very important speech at Cairo University, and the cultural dinner. So to cover several, and in the meantime, ministers who came with the president signed almost 20 agreements, in addition to the agreements that were signed in the morning, with huge agreements signed, and for example, on health with Sanofi, the French company, but also on green hydrogen for billions of euros, but also on electricity with Schneider Electric and others. And even an agreement between the two football federations on the development of women's soccer.
That's good.
That's one of my babies.
That's nice, because I have a friend of mine. Her daughter is one of the champions, and she will be very happy to listen to that.
And you can tell her that it was signed, and this is something I'm really eager to see being developed between the two federations. This was bilateral, but the next day, and I really want to spend a few minutes to mention this, we wanted to go back to the regional issues, but we wanted to do it the closest we could to the reality. So that was the idea, to move to Arish.
Yes, I wanted to bring this subject because this visit to me was very touchy, and it was the highest possible rank of a Western leader to come as close as possible to the conflict zone, and to come and not only just stand by the gate. I mean, we really appreciate what Antonio, the Secretary General, is doing, and his great emphasis on the protection of human rights. But your president went to the hospitals and met kids and
Exactly.
children who were injured. And
There's two presidents, because there were
yes,
the two presidents was there. It was in fact it was something I really worked hard on, and when I proposed that to the president, he was really immediately positively responding. And so the idea was to go to Al-Arish Hospital, where the two presidents met with the medical
only
team.
40 kilometers away from the borders.
Exactly, it's very close to Rafah, and the idea was really to visit, to exchange with the medical teams, but even Egyptian medical teams who are taking care of the patients, but even more importantly, to talk to patients coming from Gaza, wounded children with chronic disease. Wounded women,
amputated
exactly,
children.
and that was something which was of course very important, because it was a way for the two presidents to pay tribute to the suffering of these people, and to the role of the medical staff, and it was also a way, of course, when you read, when you see the image on TV, when you are informed by your staff, you get some understanding. But when you're in a bedroom of an hospital where you have these people who arrived from Gaza in the last weeks, months, and tell you about the reality of the situation, that of course it adds something that you can imagine. But we didn't want to do only this. So the idea was also to visit the warehouse of the Red Crescent, together with Dr. Hanan, the Director General, who is an amazing woman, who is doing an amazing job, together with the staff and the volunteers.
She's from Ain Shams as well.
I will have to tell also our friends from other universities that we are not forgetting them, because I understand that Ain Shams, but Ain Shams, I have to acknowledge, is a very important university. I agree.
I'm just joking.
No, I understand, of course. So that was important also to see the work of the staff at the Red Crescent and the volunteers.
Yes.
Young women and men not even sleeping often, doing shifts in the night to try to organize the help, except that for a month now it's not possible to move humanitarian materials and goods towards Gaza. And we organized also a meeting between our president at that time, because the two presidents were at the warehouse of the Red Crescent, but then our president met with international NGOs, UN organizations, and also with the members of the European mission, which was until last month assisting the border crossing from Rafah to Egypt. The European mission is called EUBAM, and we have French gendarmes who are part of the team.
Yes.
So we brought them in order to brief the president on this. And then he gave a press conference where, as you saw, he was very strong and clear on very key issues that we mentioned at the beginning. And you probably saw that on his way back from Egypt, on his plane, on the way back, he gave interviews to the French press, where he really clearly opened the door to the recognition of the Palestinian state.
Yes.
With the aim of this conference at the UN that we are planning to organize, co-chaired by Saudi Arabia and France, on the implementation of the two-state solution.
Yes.
So that was, of course, an important political statement the president made, which I have to say was a statement which says that France is eager to go towards this conference of the implementation of the two-state solution with the idea of recognizing the Palestinian state. But we believe also that it should contribute to a dynamics where also countries of the region will have to recognize Israel, because we believe that if we are serious on two-state solution, two states, two people living side by side
peacefully.
in peace and security, then we need mutual
this has been
understanding.
always
and that was the position of Egypt. I mean,
this
you
has
were
been
the
the
first
position,
one.
not just during Sadat time, by the way, because Sadat was following Nasser, and Nasser in 1953 accepted the bipartisan of 1947, but at that time Ben Gurion didn't like the idea because he was supposed to give in Eilat and all of that, and even Nasser did that in 1968. Sadat did that in 1971 before the war and after the war. Egypt has been always a strong standing for peace, and peace in Egypt is in the Middle East is going to be beneficial to all parties involved, and this
To
is
all parties involved, and
the
even
whole
more
world.
importantly, to all people.
Yes, of course.
And all this suffering has to stop, and this is the only way.
Sir,
Thank you.
I cannot thank you enough because we want to talk more and more. And could you please give us a promise to come back?
I give you a promise to come back, of course, to do this kind of things with you, but also to come to the Francophone.
Yes, of course.
Because I know that you have also a Francophone radio here, so
Yes.
I will do both.
Please, that would be very kind of you, because
It will be my pleasure.
Today we had the pleasure and honor of having with us His Excellency Ambassador اريك Chevallier, the Ambassador of France to Egypt. And definitely he has given us what Rifat Tahtawi once said, تخليص الإبريز في تلخيص باريس, or should we say the whole summary of a great state visit of President Macron to Egypt, to his friend and ally, strategic ally, President Sisi. And sir, thank you very much for coming and sharing with us all this food for thought. And it was really a great pleasure and honor.
That was my pleasure and honor. Thank you.
Thank
you for inviting me.
Thank you. So by this come to the end of the World of Info today. My name is Dr. Amr Mabrouk. Dua Muhammad is at the control. And see you same time, same station next week. Stay tuned to Radio Cairo.